these schools. And by God's grace, those schools have grown. We started with 31 kids in 2011. Now between the two of them, there's 136 kids that get a meal each day and get exposure to the gospel that wouldn't otherwise. And so that's kind of how I met Mike in November. Some of you were here. I spoke on a Wednesday night. How many of you were here? That was back in November. And I had been at St. Paul Lutheran. They sponsor some kids out there, and I was sharing with them, and I was headed back home. I only took half a day off. I was going to get back to our school where I administrate and teach, and I was on 21 Highway, and Mike called, and he said, hey, if you'll come share with my congregation tonight, we'll make a donation to your academy. And so I turned around, and I came back pretty quick. Anytime you talk the money, right? And so I turned around and came back, and many of you actually joined our team that night and decided to sponsor kids. And so that's been really exciting. And I'm excited, too. Paul talks about in the book of Philippians a partnership for the advancement of the gospel. That's what churches are supposed to be about, and individuals and people in ministries. And so I'm excited about you partnering with us in the gospel. And Lee and Eric, and there's a couple of others of you interested in going over to Zambia to help us build classrooms. We've got the best problem in the world. It's similar to your problem here. We got too many kids. We're out of space. And so we're going to build 8 classrooms this summer, 4 at our school in the south and 4 at our school in the north. And so that's pretty exciting. And Lee and a couple of the guys are going to help us to do that this summer. So that we had to do. And then the professor, of course, was going to pick them apart and tell us where we didn't do them right. So I picked the 10 smallest Psalms I could find because Hebrew didn't come that naturally for me. Apparently Psalm 39 was not one of those. We're going to read through it here in just a minute. Luther wrote a commentary on the Psalms. And as an Augustinian monk in the 16th century, this was common for them. They would memorize the entire Psalter. And you can't help but, and you don't even know it sometimes, it's just kind of like sabotages your thoughts. What you put in will come out. Everybody kind of knows that. Garbage in, garbage out, good things in, good things out. And putting something like the Psalter into your mind is going to affect your pen later and your thought life. And so as an Augustinian monk, he would memorize it, and later we're going to see things come out in his life. He wrote a lot of hymns. One of them is A Mighty Fortress Is Our God. Another psalm that he wrote later I'm going to share in just a little bit. But they would have a profound effect on those who would memorize them because the Psalms are all over the place. You might read Psalm 8 and be on top of the mountain. And then you might read something like Psalm 39 and be all depressed and torn up. It's kind of like the Christian life, right? Full of peaks and valleys. That's what Christianity is like. There's that roller coaster in Branson.